Excellent. Okay, welcome to our first meeting of FY of 2023. Let's start with a call to order.
All right, Commissioner Bites.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Doherty.
Here.
Commissioner Ishibashi.
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell. Online. There you go. Thank you. And Chair Fidrich.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go to the approval of the minutes from way back in November 2nd, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 2nd, 2022.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstains? Tracy is abstaining?
Her hand just came up.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see that. Any no's? All right, thank you.
Great. Now we're going to move to presentations. Okay. We have an oral request. We had a letter from Alan Zisser regarding the geese in the park. Are we going to review that? Okay. Okay. All right. This is the point on the agenda where members of the public may address the commission on items of concern to the community that are not listed on the agenda this evening. People may speak up to 2 minutes on any matter concerning the commission. The law generally prohibits the commission from discussion or taking action on such items. However, the commission may instruct staff accordingly regarding oral requests.
And Chair Fidrich, just so you know, there may be people online as well. So you can begin either with online or in person, however you choose.
Well, let's start in person. If there's anybody here in person first. Yes, that's you. Thank you.
I will go ahead and start the time for you.
Okay. I'm usually on the other side of this, so I'm usually not that fast a talker, but I'll try my best. I'm Alan Zisser. I'm an ex two-term Civic Improvement Commissioner. Actually, I know most of you here, and it's nice to see you, including you, Tracy. So commissioners and Director Capurso, I'd written a letter on December 5th. Hopefully you've read the letter because I don't want to go through the letter. I think it's self-explanatory. I just wanted to be here to kind of emphasize my concerns about this. I've gone to I'm very familiar with Campbell Park. I actually almost walk there 3-4 times a week to go down the trail a bit to get some exercise. And so for the last probably 15 years. So, and I noticed when the geese first arrived, probably 5 years ago, and every year they've increased 50 to 80%, to the point where this last summer I counted 35 geese. And they used to just graze in the south edge, and now they migrated to the rest of the grassy areas. I have a picture that I included. I also realized I had another picture. This picture is actually of the picnic area. This is the same day on July 3rd. To show you that the geese were also over in the small picnic area as well. So basically the geese have taken over every grassy area of Campbell Park, which is not very large. And
Your time is up.
my time's up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to express my serious concern because it's only going to get worse, and that the droppings will encompass the entire grassy area of the park, and the park's only going to get more popular. And I just one more thing. It's just, you know, I'm on the planning commission. We're in the midst of the housing element, and East Campbell has been targeted as one of the areas where there's going to be more housing. So there's going to be more use of the park over the next 5 to 10 years. So the use of the park is very high now, especially in the warm months. And so you will have a grassy area that will be unusable unless you do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I did read the letter. That was a very well-written letter and the references you made too. So thank you very much. You know, one thing I just want to suggest, maybe Todd, maybe next meeting, you can just give us some feedback on what's happening down there as far as obstruction for that area.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay,
We should be able to touch a little bit on the conditions of Campbell Park under our regular report out tonight, under staff reports when we get to the parks report out, but obviously can't talk too much about it
yeah,
until we get there.
okay,
Thanks.
awesome. Okay, again, thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, anybody else as far as presentations who is in the audience?
We do have one person online.
Okay, let's move to online then. I'm not sure who that is, Natasha.
Kevin Scott.
Kevin, can you hear us? Was he in before?
He was in the waiting room, but I just admitted him, but now it's joining, so.
Okay. Kevin, let us know when you can hear us. Still showing his name up there?
Still shows and it still says joining and I can't.
Is there a way to communicate with them in chat or
Uh,
something?
Oh, he's asking again.
Oh, I see a check mark. Kevin, if you can hear us, you're mute. Looks like you're muted. Does it show that he's in? Mhm. Kevin, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hey, there we go. Making progress. Okay, Kevin, this is Bob Fidrich. I'm the Chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We understand you have an agenda item you'd like to bring forth according to the rules or request, okay, or request. You have 2 minutes to present to us, so you're up.
Actually, I'm not sure to be something to present. I was just gonna watch and see what exactly is going on with the city of Campbell. And then possibly turn something in either later today or tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, that's allowable, correct? To host anybody in the city can, so well, welcome. Okay, and appreciate whatever you want to send to us later on. Looking forward to it. Okay, is there anybody else either here or online who has an oral request tonight?
No more online.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to unfinished business. any unfinished business that, Natasha, that we have?
Not at this time that's on the agenda. We will postpone chair selection and committee rotations for the next meeting when the commission is full.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go on to new business then. We're going to talk about the Virginia Park Playground Improvement Project. And who is that?
That I will give the lead in. That will be coming from the Public Works Department. So I think many of you are aware of the issue that we have out at Virginia Park where one of the play structures has failed due to deterioration. And it is a project that we had in our CIP, I think in fiscal years 25 and 26. So we obviously have a need to act on that park sooner rather than later. So we do have a plan that we would like the commission to consider, and to present that plan, we'll be bringing up our acting superintendent, Ron Termina.
Good evening, Commission. Wanted to talk a little bit about, if you can go to the first slide. Just wanted to, as reiterating what Todd was talking about, the Virginia Park play structure. As most of you know, that's been in use for, the existing one was in use for more than 20 years. Been enjoyed by visitors of all ages, but routine maintenance in November showed that we discovered, as Todd was saying, significant deterioration of the parks, of the structure's wooden legs on it. If you would like to go to the next slide, please. In these photos here, you can see the existing structure. You can take a look at the 4x4 structure legs. You can see how some of them have completely deteriorated down to where there's hardly maybe a quarter of the structural support left there. This is one angle of the structure. You go to the next slide, please. This is another portion of the structure legs. What you're noticing down at the bottom is the concrete footing that's there, but little or nothing for the structure part of it. And go to the last slide, please. Okay, well, you can stay here. So with these, the deterioration of the structural legs, we decided that it would be best to caution tape off the structure and decide how we were going to move forward on that. So we caution taped everything off, barricaded it, put signs up. And on a couple site visits, we noticed that there were still people using the play structure. I went up to one gentleman and his reasoning was, my daughter can't read. And I said, well, it's not a good idea to have her on there. Can you see the structural leg? So talking to Todd, we decided that it was probably best to completely remove the play structure. So that's what we did at that time. Play structure was taken down in probably mid-December, completely removed. And also by late November, we had reached out to Miracle Play Systems. Miracle Play Systems has already done some work for us. They've been successful work history with us there. They're the ones that are doing the add-ons at the Hyde Park, did the swing set there. They did the walking glider at the Campbell Community Center. So they sent out their representative. We kind of showed them the real estate that we had there to work with. And what they came up with, they did a design for us, what would work best for what we had there. This is what they're proposing for us to put in. That's one angle of the play structure. I could talk a little bit about the structure. This structure here is called the Safari Theme. It's age appropriate, 2 to 5 years old, capacity of 62 to 72 children. It's got 8 elevated play activity areas on it. It's also got 3 slides, 2 platforms, 3 foot and 5 foot. It actually has an elevated part. You can't really see it now, but that is actually the design of a bear there that takes you from the 3 foot elevated platform to the 5 foot. Also, go to the next slide. Thank you. If you look over to the side, what they did is they've designed not only the play structure, but there's about 3 different little accessories that they decided to put out there that could be used too. If you notice off to the right-hand side, there's a beam there, a bounce beam it's called. If you look at that there's a white section on the bottom that the child steps on, and then there's 2 rings on top. Can hold onto that, and you can move up and down. It acts like a pogo stick. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. If you look on this side, there's also a butterfly climber for children. It's made out of concrete, and it's got an epoxy type coating on it, surface. Kids can use that to climb on. Also, if you notice off to the side, there's a camouflage little Jeep there. That's called the Safari Rider. It's 1 to 3 riders at a time on it. There's tension springs on the bottom of it. So when the kids sit in it, it could be bounced around. It gives a little bit of movement and stuff that kids can hopefully enjoy. And what I'd like to do is go to the next slide, please. If you look at this picture, it's an overview of the Virginia Park. It shows the old play structure there, and it shows the swing. If you look to up to the top of that area, it kind of just shows a beam going across. That's the swing set there. So with the new proposal for that new play structure and the add-ons, we would be removing that section of concrete as a walkway that kind of meanders through there and ends up at a seat wall, but that would be completely removed. So we could get a little more real estate, add in a couple more little features to that area. So this kind of just shows you what we would do there. Next slide, please. This is showing how it would look with the new play structure and all the accessories around it. If you take a look, you can see that where the sidewalk has been removed, that's kind of where the Safari Jeep sits at now. It shows where the bouncing beam is, the butterfly, and then the actual play structure. And then if you notice on the walkway going to the right, there'll be a new ADA ramp installed that would get you down into the play area. Once you got in the play area, you would be able to access the new play structure and then work your way all the way over to the swing set. We did have the swing set looked at when Miracle was out here. They said that is in really good shape because it's made out of metal. Same thing as with the new structure will be made out of metal. They tell you that it's warranted for 100 years, but what we were planning on doing, once we got the new play structure and we get the color scheme that was on the play structure and go ahead and paint the swing set to match, kind of tie everything in together there. So this is pretty much what they proposed us. The proposed improvements have an estimated cost of $88,000. This includes the purchase of the play structure and installation, as well as the installation of the new ADA ramp. Because this project exceeds the $50,000 threshold for qualifying CIP projects, City Council must first grant authorization for the project to commence this current fiscal year. What we're asking tonight is that we get approval from Parks and Recs Committee to move forward to go to council on February 21st to ask for to get approval to go ahead and move forward with this play structure. We are anticipating that we do get approval, just so everybody knows, it's about a 4 to 6 month lead time to get the play structure. So even if we get approval after the 21st of February, we probably wouldn't see something until maybe midsummer at the earliest. That's it. Is there any
Great.
questions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Questions?
I don't
Seriously?
have a
Oh,
question,
please have.
but thank you. It needs to be done.
Oh,
I-
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, because right now it's,
So,
there's
I
just
know.
a
Well, there's
ghost.
nothing there now except tan bark.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So
Good job.
Well,
Thank you.
let me ask the obvious question. That is, where does the money come from?
this is coming from the Parks Dedication Fund. Is
So the money is already, because you said it was 2025 or 2026 it was allocated for?
Yes,
So the short story of that is that we had a grand total of 320,000 in those 2 fiscal years. Because we were going to approach this project originally, much like we approached Campbell Park or John D. Morgan, in that you would come in and almost look at it as like a wholesale redevelopment of the play area. And that level of improvement typically requires a landscape architectural design and to develop a set of plans. And that's where the first year funding was going to be used for. And then the second year would be more or less the construction budget. Given the fact that this play lot has effectively failed, we can still take that sort of strategy, but recognizing that then the community out there would be without a play amenity for probably over a year.
Mhm.
So our plan was to bring in a manufacturer that we've had some recent success with and see what we could do in terms of a layout where we could maybe better utilize the space that's out there. And so without having to do too much site work, other than the removal of a portion of the sidewalk and the relocation of the ADA ramp, we effectively go right to the construction phase. So we don't really have a true design phase. We did send letters out to the surrounding community, and we posted it at the park to see if there was any neighborhood concerns or input, just in case people wanted to make their opinions known. And we've received nothing to this point. So just given that the community is without a current play amenity out there, and we can do this, comparatively pretty cost effective, because instead of the 320,000, we're going to ask council to allocate about 110,000, because we will still need construction review. We'll still need to review the plans prepared by the manufacturer. We'll still need to do inspection, and then we'll probably have some site work that we'll have our in-house staff do. So it effectively goes from a $320,000 project to about $110,000 project, and then we don't have to deal with that in the CI. So we'll defund that project that's in the CIP,
Okay.
let that roll back to fund balance. So we'll have even more funds to allocate on other projects over the coming years.
So in the long term, it could be positive, so to speak.
That's correct.
Uh-huh. And one other question for you. So you said kind of half jokingly that metal swing will last 100 years. How long will this last?
Well, that's what they're saying. They're giving us a warranty that the new play structure, the structural legs of it are warranted for 100 years.
That's great.
Well, it's safe to say we probably got another 80 left on the swing set. We're probably okay.
Okay.
And as Todd was saying, the removal of the sidewalk, the removal of the concrete footings will all be done in-house.
Okay.
And we wouldn't do any of that work till, if this project is approved, we would wait till it got close to the time of receiving the equipment, that we would go out there, remove footings, remove the sidewalk, backfill holes, move the mulch over to the other side, and then new mulch would be added in also around the new play structure.
I have never been to Virginia Park, but I'm assuming it's pretty well used.
There's a decent amount. It's tapered for 2 to 5 year old.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, mostly neighborhood park. Okay.
It's well used by
Yeah.
the smaller 2 to
Okay.
5 year olds.
I think unless you guys feel differently, all of us would love to see it replaced.
Chair Fidrich,
Well, that's
just,
where we're hoping that.
just as a reminder, it's not every day that we have an audience, but after the commission's done with questions, you need to close the questions for the commission and open it up to the public, both in-house and online,
Thank
and
you very
then
much.
bring
for
it back
reminding.
for discussion.
Okay, I will close the questions. Then, are there any questions, comments by the public as to the subject? Great. Step up, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Keegan Owsley. This is my wife, Diana Owsley. We're members of the community. We're actually here because of the Virginia Park project. And, we use that park all the time.
All the
We
time.
have a almost 3-year-old, and we have a little baby who's going to be using it soon. Of course, she was very disappointed when the play structure disappeared. So, obviously, we'll be very excited to see something come as soon as we can. And
Right.
we're kind of waited with bated breath for when,
The city park's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
So
there you go.
Was she the one who couldn't read the signs?
No, I will say that when we go there, there's usually at least another, 2 or 3 families.
Yeah,
So,
when the park was still available, there were a couple people that would come that we'd see regularly, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been going across the way instead, but
Okay.
we do like being there.
Actually, it's
very
glad to hear
close.
you're going to another Campbell Park if this one's closed, but
Right,
yeah,
Yes.
John D. Morgan is
okay,
nearby. So.
yeah.
great.
This one's nice because it's geared towards the age that our daughter is at, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Great.
Do you like the proposed play structure?
Yeah, I
Look
think
like
it looks
it.
great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have anything bad to say about it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for coming tonight and telling us your comments and your thoughts. Is there anybody else, either here or else online, who wants to say anything? Okay, we'll close that portion. Natasha, do we tell us your?
Yeah, so next you bring it back for discussion
Okay,
with the
any discuss- any
commission
other
and you
discussion
guys,
points?
if staff is looking for a vote, then you would then make a motion in second.
I guess I would just say, I like the design build aspect of this, right? Keeping it kind of simple and saving a lot of money, right? You guys have the power to do this stuff with your own staff for a lot of the work. So I think that's fantastic.
And I'm just gonna say ditto. I mean, that's great job.
Commissioner, any thoughts?
I like it. I think it's a good idea. Certainly a movement up from what those posts were on, the one you took down.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys tore that down. My thoughts are that it's hard to say no. It looks beautiful. Presentation's great. I'm glad we have people from the community kind of saying that it would make sense. And I'm sure you guys have done your homework as to who's using it currently. And if the money's available, that saves money long-term, it's kind of hard to say anything negative about it. So at this point, Natasha, should we vote for this? Okay, a motion to vote for the yay or nay on the project?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to support staff's recommendation for the Virginia Park Improvement Project.
And I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll go to the next order of new business, special event policy.
Good evening, commissioners. So tonight, the Recreation Community Services Department is bringing forward the special event policy, which is currently known as the Downtown Special Event Policy. Our city defines special events by a group of 100 or more gathering in a public space. So and the policy that we have currently in place is very dedicated to rules and regulations in our downtown space. It doesn't give us a lot to go with when people are requesting to use public spaces outside of the downtown, most specifically our parks and our community center. So we have been working to revitalize this policy and refresh it to include some very specific language as to where special events can take place, what types of amenities can happen at those specific locations. And so tonight, staff is bringing this before you just so you can get your eyes on it and provide any feedback or recommendations that staff has presented about operating special events inside of our parks, most specifically, and just know that this policy is still very much in draft form, and we're still working with our Public Works Department and our Police Department for final walkthrough of this. So you're kind of our first step to kind of look at the park section, and then we'll be wrapping up with Public Works and PD in the next couple of weeks and hoping to have this before council in early March, maybe late March. So I'm just going to point out very quickly, in the policy, there is a grid that outlines that staff has identified Edith Morley Park, Campbell Park with trail usage, Orchard City Green, and the community center as potential locations for special events. These are generally where we direct people and manage when special event requests come in. I would say majority of what we deal with are people wanting to do trail runs or some sort of fundraiser run out of Campbell Park, but sometimes we do get very unique requests to utilize spaces. And again, we just have not had a forum to really have a good guiding policy for them. These max occupancies, as you can see, are just kind of generic. We figure anytime we put something, someone's gonna, probably exceed that by 33%. So we have kind of downplayed them a little bit in anticipation of that going over to accommodate those areas. And that's really what we're looking for. The community center is one that we get a request for a lot. And it's not in here now, but we had kind of discussed really kind of identifying that they have to be on the field space for athletic events or in the parking lot, just because of the impact to the turf and things like that. Relay for Life is another one that happens at our tracks. We get a lot of unique requests and just really, they kind of fall under this weird category for us to permit and have fees associated. So the last part of this will be assigning fees and having a fee structure that gets approved by council, and staff is working, well, our city is currently working with a consultant and looking at all of our user fees. So this component will be reviewed with the consultant as well as part of this policy update. That pretty much wraps up my assessment of this policy. I'm happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Just one question. I noticed John D. Morgan isn't on here at all. Is that?
That's correct. John D. Morgan does not have adequate parking to accommodate heavy special event uses. And it's very impactful for our community members in that area that are having picnics or doing other things. A tangent to this is our athletic and field policy, which Lauren and I will probably be bringing back after this one gets done, is modifying that because the over 100 triggers special event for tournament play for our youth groups. So when they have tournaments, it kind of triggers a special event policy too. So we wanted to do a tournament fee so that we can manage the impact to the fields on tournament days and require certain reservations of picnic sites to also mitigate the number of people coming into the parks and disappointment, right? If I'm having a large party at the park and I've reserved a picnic and there's this major sporting event going on, it's pretty impactful to my event too. So we want to kind of mitigate those things, but that'll be coming as a later thing. But John D. Morgan just isn't an adequate space to provide a huge festival event, and it's all turf. So as soon as you put booths and stuff all over the turf, then you're ruining the turf. And we like to keep Public Works very happy.
Thank you.
So just so I'm clear, what you're stating here is that if it is deemed a special event, it must be approved by the city. Is that correct?
Yes. So anything, yes, it has to be approved by the city. Different levels of special event, any street closure or live entertainment requires council approval. So anytime you're in the downtown district, it has to go before council for final approval. There's a lot more steps involved. A special event that's hosted out of Campbell Park that uses the trail and is permitted properly through the county and everything as well, when they hit the county property, is done just through the Recreation and Public Works and Police Department.
And is it just, so there's a fee for the special event as well?
Mhm.
So I was looking at, the definitions. And it's one of the ones that struck me was the one that said block party.
Mhm.
And it says 20 people. I have to admit, we got 5 houses in our court and we sometimes get together for 2 hours in the evening at the end of the court. That's 25 people right there.
These definitions are just taken directly from our Muni code. And block parties are actually done through the police department. And I would venture to say that if you're in a cul-de-sac, you're not blocking the right of way of the public. So it may fall into a different category, but I am not the expert on that. That would be a police department
I
question.
just want to make sure that we've used the reasonableness factor
Mhm.
and going through, it's like you put something in place, but if the citizens don't think it's reasonable, they aren't going to pay attention to it.
Right.
So,
And I think block parties were intended for neighborhood associations who wanted to close an entire public street. And not everybody on that street of closure is going to participate in said block party of that neighborhood association, but this provides them a way to permit and notice properly so that everyone has a means to voice their opinion.
okay. Anybody else have questions, thoughts?
one general question. Are the fees, are those meant to be cost recovery, like for staff time? Or are they actually supposed to, make a little bit of money for the city? Do you know what the goal is?
I don't know if any of our special events at the current rates that we're permitting cover the cost of time, of staff time to manage the permitting process of getting them all through. The downtown special events are a pass-through direct cost for services. So when you have public safety and public works coming out and doing barricades and patrolling, those are at cost of, their timing, they're keeping track of their time and what they're doing. And that's billed directly to the organizer.
And then do you have any, I know you said you get some odd requests or unique requests. Can you give us any examples of like requests that,
You want to come up?
particularly odd ones?
Hi, good evening. I'm Lauren Merriman, Recreation Services Manager for the Recreation and Community Services Department with Natasha. And I have been, it's been my pleasure to receive all of these applications over the past 6.5 years, and we have gotten some interesting ones. One that sticks out in my mind is that we have had requests to use the community center athletic fields for an all-night dance party. So that one was kind of interesting. The majority of them do end up being more fundraisers, nonprofits wanting to do fun runs in Campbell Park, but we do also have groups that want to do music festivals in John D. Morgan Park. I got a call yesterday, was it yesterday or today, that somebody wants to do a car show at Edith Morley. So there are a lot of groups that are looking, and I think because of the pandemic and the need to, or the desire to gather outside, there's been maybe an increase of people looking for other public places to do bigger scale things. So that's why we're trying to kind of take what we've been experiencing and try and find a way to make that permitting process be in line with what we think is appropriate for the spaces and staff time and everything else.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Can I ask, what is the enforcement of this? I remember a year or so ago, there were all kind of big parties happening in John D. Morgan Park. We said, hey, we might try to put a person out there to kind of walk on the weekends.
Yeah.
But has that worked?
So yeah, that's a great question. And it might be a good time to bring that back in the next month or two, is just an update from that program. The city was able to fund a part-time person through the police department that was regulating John D. Morgan Park on Saturdays and Sundays when our heavy use picnic season was. And I think he came on board in the June timeframe. We'd hoped a little earlier, but he was on board from June through October and worked every Saturday and Sunday and really helped enforce some of the larger scale infractions out there, meaning vending, setting up full-on barbecues, big tents, weddings taking place. So we did see a huge decrease in the amount of misuse of John D. Morgan Park. In addition to that, we brought to you the proposal to increase the number of picnic areas that we permit. And that in itself has also really mitigated the amount of people that are bringing alcohol into the park. They're able to actually get picnic areas for smaller groups where it was just large groups before. And so that process has been a really positive impact. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, Commissioner Ishibashi, not the weirdest request, but the weirdest thing I've come upon is I've shown up to John D. Morgan on the Bud side with a full medieval village set up and a jousting thing happening. No joke. I mean, they were fully decked out. They had erected a full village in the middle of the soccer fields there,
That's a good one.
unpermitted.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? So I'm not sure what the ask is here.
You can open up to the public and then bring it back. Staff is just looking for feedback. This is Lauren and I sitting in a room, putting information on a thing. So we are hoping to have other eyes on people who are invested in our park space and open space within Campbell to just, if you feel good about this, that's fine. We're not looking for a motion or anything this evening. We're just simply looking for some feedback. And if you're thumbs up, move forward. If you have a brainchild idea later in the weeks, please just email me
Okay.
directly.
Thank
and
you.
That's fine too.
And just so then you take it, do you take this to anybody else for approval, or is it?
We are working with the other departments that are
Okay.
impacted with this and also the consultant on the fee schedule. And then it will go to council for final approval. And then we'll bring back the athletic field for you guys for review and approval up to council and kind of go through that process
Great.
again with that one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the ask here is if there's anybody either present or online, virtual, we'll say, who has any, is that what we're doing here? Comments?
No one online.
Okay. Yes. Yes, please.
I was looking at the draft. And I was looking at the draft and I noticed that you have a chart that shows like what's allowed, what's not allowed. And I noticed the food sales not allowed at the parks. And I guess just could imagine if somebody wanted an event that had 100, 200 people, food trucks are really popular now, as we all know. So I could imagine that if you wanted to have an event at Campbell Park and somebody would want maybe a couple food trucks in the parking lot, that doesn't seem unreasonable, or for that matter at Morgan. So I would just say maybe you need to take a little look at the idea of whether or not allowing food sales at a special event in a park wouldn't make some sense under certain restrictions. So just a thought.
That's a great point.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's fair. I'm looking at this chart. It looks like Orchard City Green Community Center both allow food, which, when you first said that, I thought of the community center. It's got a large parking lots. You can have food trucks in the parking lot there without having to affect the turf, if that's a concern. Campbell Park, maybe, there's a parking lot there too, but that's a good point.
I will just say food sales brings an issue with the health department for us, and another component. And Edith Marley, Campbell Park are predominantly turf areas where they need to not be on turf. So it limits you would be blocking the public right of way. So that was why those areas were excluded. Food trucks, thanks for bringing that up. That is actually monitored and managed by our community development department. So they are somebody that we are still in the loop around to kind of put that language in there, because we get a lot of requests about food trucks and how to manage that. So that's still on our to-do list to get into the policy, so that there will be some clear information, because it is a constant request.
I'd like to ask a question. It's around Morgan Park. And you're talking about parking and traffic. And my observation there is there are a lot of cars parked there, seeming like more cars there than there are people. And so the question I would have is, who else is parking in there? I know you don't know. I'm just asking a question, because if you look at the parking lot on the side where the children's area is, that parking lot is mostly closely filled. At least in looking out in the green area and in the park too, you don't see that many people. So a question has to be, and I'm posing that, what's going on in that parking lot?
I honestly don't have that answer. However, on the Bud side, the picnic area over there can host 100,
Yeah, it's free.
150.
It's free.
And there's not adequate parking on Bud side. So a lot of that overfill comes to the Rincon side to manage some of that.
Yeah.
And then also you have soccer games throughout the day that happen, or classes. And then the center picnic area is another 75 people. So when you start adding up the maximums of all the picnic areas, it is quite possible that all of the parking could be utilized for park users. It's just visually they're not just all gathered on the green space. So it's hard to say. I don't know. I know there are people who use
What I
it.
think I'm seeing sometimes is people from the housing development across the street are parking in there.
That's quite
And that in
possible.
of itself, I don't know if they're doing it overnight or just during the day or visitors or what, but that puts a strain in that parking lot.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, so Director Caperso just confirmed that it is posted no parking overnight. So I don't know if they're being ticketed or monitored by PD or not.
That might be the question.
All right, thank you. Okay, no more comments on this. I think we'll move over to the next order of new business, the Valentine Fun Run.
All right, so welcome back to 2023. We have the Valentine Fun Run coming up on Saturday, February 11th. We'd love for the commission to be there in full force supporting our event. We have volunteer shifts. They are currently full, but if you would like to come on Friday, we'd be more than happy to have you. It's at Sports Basement for the packet pickup. It'll be a shift from 3:30 to 5:30 and another one from 5:15 to 7:15. And then on the day of the event, that's when we would love to have your face there the most, helping in the morning, 8 to probably 10:30, 11, but we put on the thing 8 to noon just to be safe. We're already over 400 runners pre-registered for the fun run on the 11th. And when the Oktoberfest happened, we had 200 registrations happen the last 12 days prior to the cutoff. So we're expecting this to exceed 500 by next week, and we're capping it at 550. So we're hoping that we meet our maximum, and we would love to have you guys come. So I know, Sherry, you have already signed up for a shift, and if anyone else is interested, be happy to put your name down.
Is there a 10K in this year's run too? 5 and 10 or 5 and 10 and.
That's
2 or
correct.
whatever.
There's a 5K and a 10K.
Okay. Yeah.
And a kids dash.
Yes.
And we're doing hot pink and black, so it'll be super lively and fun.
I know I have waiting for a basketball clarification for my games those days, but if I get open, just email you, Lauren. Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll do the same.
Mhm. Awesome. That's gonna sounds like fun. Like the old days. A lot of people. Awesome. Okay, let's go to the committee reports next. I have to admit, I'm not quite sure who heads each committee down here. So maybe we'll kind of do a group for all of those. And first, Parks and Recs Trails. Any comments from anybody?
No, I haven't been out all that much to the parks since with the weather being very rainy.
Yeah, I've noticed a few trees come down. Look like staff got those cleared up relatively quickly. I imagine there's quite a few trees that I didn't even see that probably came down in those storms. But yeah, everything looked pretty good on the Creek Trail and Community Center, which is where I've been.
From you, Commissioner?
I noticed when we were talking a while back, I add again at the park, Bud, the lawns were getting pretty messed up because of dryness. They now look and have been taken very good care of. So they look just about awesome.
I think rain fixes all that stuff. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Back in Pennsylvania, where I used to live, the lawns always look great because it rained every week. I'll just add that I went for a walk during this past week in Campbell Park, and the new equipment area was just full with kids. And also just today, again, another basketball game, and another mom from Campbell said she just loved the look and feel of the new park. So I think it turned out really, really nice. So great job, everybody. So I think Alan started with the trees. So we're kind of, I don't know if anybody else has to add to the trees for the trees report. Okay. I mean, you have a question?
No.
I say, Todd, I mean, how bad was the damage after the storm?
Well, I don't want to take any of Ron's thunder away, but he'll be giving you an update during the parks thing. But
Okay.
we did have we had quite a few large trees go down. A combination of our own trees going down, causing damage, and then also a fair amount of private trees falling onto the public right of way that we had to remove. So I will not touch on the particulars. I'll save that for Ron.
Okay, we'll wait for Ron on that. And lastly, special events. I don't think there were any special events since we met last time. So, okay, so next we'll go to staff reports. Over to Parks. Todd. Okay, perfect transition.
Thank you again. You are correct on assumption on the storms. It was just super crazy out there. We had so many trees coming down that were blocking the right of way. Trees that had came down and smashed either cars or fell into garages, coming just right through roofs. We had a large eucalyptus come down at the gardens, which was just recently removed. We actually had 2 trees come down at the community center. We had a large oak out in the middle of the field and one right by Natasha's office, building C. And we had a large eucalyptus come down here at this site over by the library. Yeah, so. And we had a large eucalyptus came down at the library. The parks and street staff, we kind of collaborated together, got both groups together. They really did a tremendous job on tree removal. Some of the guys worked through the night, just cutting trees down, getting things taken care of. We had some guys that were working huge amounts of overtime. So everybody pulled together. It was a team effort, and it took us about a week and a half to get everything cleaned up. We're in pretty good shape now. So, but it was pretty crazy. We had wires, electrical wires that came down. We had signalized intersections. There was probably 8 of them at one time that went completely down. Some have battery backup. They come on, but the battery backup only lasts about 4 hours and then it dies. So we had our intersections with generators set up that would keep the major intersections running, because Bascom and Apricot, we had put stop signs up. That was out for a little over 2 days. It was pretty crazy. PG&E finally got everything up and running, but yeah, it was a real test for everybody. Everybody pulled together in the maintenance staff, and they made it happen. So appreciate everything they did. Also at JDM Park on the Bud side, there was a storm sewer pipe that came apart. Before actually our storm, we noticed a big wet area. We dug down, found out that a 6-inch storm drain pipe had become disconnected. And at that time, our in-house staff was able to fix the pipe back. It's a 6-inch PVC line that ran to a couple different DIs. So the repairs were made to the storm drain pipe. It was water tested, staff confirmed, put some water down the storm drain and make sure that nothing, they actually added the soil back, mulch and everything. You don't even know we were out there. So everything's operational again. And this started with some of the heavy rains we got before that heavy wind. We noticed that this area was pretty saturated. We knew we were getting a lot of rain, but this area was overly saturated. So we were able to find that broken pipe and get that put back together. Also at Edith Morley Park, we had volunteers working on December 18th and January 15th. They completed in those 2 Sundays that they worked out, they completed another large section of the corral fencing out there at Edith Morley. That's moving along. We'll probably have another volunteer day set up and continue moving forward on that, but things are looking really good out there. And also, it's not on here, but our stream is all operational again. Our pump is running, and people are enjoying that again too. Last Sunday, park staff, with the help of volunteers, planted 8 new trees at JDM Park. They planted 1 Celtis tree, 2 river birch, and 5 purple flowering plum. I apologize, I don't know the exact locations, but the trees did go in last Sunday. Heard everything went well. The volunteers really helped out and got everything installed. Talking about turf, park staff now is aerifying all the turf at the city parks. With all the rain, with the aerifying, I don't know if you remember back a while back, Bob was talking about trying to aerify the soil with it being hard and the tines were breaking and everything. So with all the rain that we've recently got, we thought this is the best time to go ahead and aerify. We're getting some nice deep plugs, 8 inches down. So that's happened in the park when We did a site visit yesterday, and at JDM, they were working out there aerifying that. So that's moving forward. So over the next 2 weeks, they'll be applying a fertilizer and soil conditioners will be applied. This way, when we do get water, rain, we're kind of getting our best bang for our buck with what water we do get, helping the growth of the lawn to stay nice and green and full. And I appreciate your comment on the condition of the lawn out there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Other than that, Parks is doing their normal maintenance, just keeping things looking nice.
I have one question. Ron, was there any flooding on the creek trail? This with all these storms? It didn't look like it to me, but I
There-
wasn't sure.
You know, we had
seems like it should've
some significant flooding in 2017
Which I
where
recall,
we had to
yes.
block that off.
Yep.
But what happened is we shut it down because we got a call saying that the Lexington Reservoir had
spill?
gone over the spillway. And last time when it went over the spillway is when we had the flooding. So just as a precaution, working with PD, we set up flooded, so we would keep it. It actually never flooded,
Okay.
but we had the signage up just in case. It was at night. I had sent guys out to post the sign. So we left those up for 2 or 3 days. Never flooded, but we'd rather be safe than
Yeah.
sorry with it flooding. So we've removed that, and there was really no damage to the creek trail.
Awesome.
Just a curious question. On a storm like this, city tree falls and his private property, is the city liable at all for any?
The resident is more than welcome to put a claim in with the city if there's any damage due to their property.
Just wondering. huh?
We're not
Oh,
sending
okay.
anybody out with a
Okay.
checkbook.
Yeah.
But it is our tree to clean it up, right? So we typically have the obligation to work with the property owner to remove our tree from the
Mhm.
property. And in many cases, the property owners will go through their insurance company. The insurance company
Yeah.
will file a claim.
Mhm.
Gets a little dicier when it's the opposite. So when there's a private tree that falls into the street and maybe takes out a street light or a PG&E line, that is also kind of an insurance to insurance company issue that sometimes we're not privy to how the details end up.
They
on
were
that
after him
either.
right away, right?
Exactly,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Is that everything for you, Ron? Because I do have a couple other items I just want to remind the commission about in that, since we're all talking about the turf and how nice it looks, I should also mention that we are working on a turf conversion project out at the community center. So there are, as you will recall, there is turf between some of the wings out there, and we are working on a project that would remove some turf only between classroom wings. And we will fund that project with a grant from Valley Water. So the turf would be removed and would be replaced with more drought tolerant landscaping that is consistent with more of a native plant palette. So you'll see that project moving forward. Again, we should get that one about 75 to 80% funded through cost recovery by a grant through Valley Water. And then interestingly enough, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the dog park down at the county park. We haven't talked about that in quite some time, but that is obviously there's a dog park out at the Los Gatos County Park, Los Gatos Creek County Park. And that project was funded with a combination of funding from various agencies, not the least of which was County Parks, but the city of Campbell was also a major contributor to that. And I believe the town of Los Gatos contributed a relatively small amount, but a contribution nonetheless. The current dog park is really coming to the end of its useful life in terms of the surfacing that's out there. And County Parks has contacted us about the potential of re-partnering to do a renovation project out there. So I will be meeting with them over the next couple of weeks, and you may see that on a future agenda item. So we'll be back talking to you about the condition of the dog park, because even though it's not a city facility, it is an amenity available to Campbell residents as well. And then lastly, just to kind of go back and touch on this geese issue, which we will be talking with you in much more detail next month. I'm sure the commission will recall that our most recent a geese issue was out at the community center, And we implemented the famous Gooseinator that some of you may recall, the little remote control
Absolutely.
object that would run the geese out of there. And as effective as that was, you will also recall that it was fairly staff intensive. And so that's kind of the battle that we're going to have with the geese is we can put some resources toward it, but it tends to be a resource issue because there's only so much you can do with those geese because they're a protected species under federal law, under the Migratory Bird Act. So there are things we can do to discourage them, but we can't actively manage them. But we will get into the gory details of that at next month's meeting.
Can I comment? Can I comment? Sure. When you did put that machine in to get them moved, they did move, and for a long time. That was pretty clear. And I
They
think it
did.
was a staff intensive issue. I noticed that they're coming back as soon as they can. So that's also an ongoing problem.
It really is. And they will show up at virtually any facility that has turf, right? So they're at a lot of city parks, they're on a lot of school sites. And
It's a big problem.
you know, this is not a Campbell problem. This is an every park and open space agency problem.
Yeah.
So it's something that we've all got to deal with and try to manage it as best we can. But at some point, if the discouraging action works, they'll go away for a while. But they don't always stay away. So we've been pretty successful out at Edith Morley with the little coyote cutouts that we have out there, and the little things that kind of move in the breeze. But I'm not sure that those would stand up out at the community center or Campbell Park for very long, right? So one of the nice things about Edith Morley is it doesn't get a lot of the active field play activities that you might see in other parks. So different measures will be more appropriate on some sites as opposed to others.
Something kind of random. I live on Latimer. There's a coyote that lives over there and runs down Latimer like occasionally. I've seen it numerous times. Neighbors have videotaped it. So I don't know if maybe that's helping keep some of the geese out of the community center as well, because they're not really there. But there is a coyote that runs down the street. I don't know where it lives, but I have seen it there numerous times, which is kind of funny in the last like 3 or 4 months. Yes.
Well, I guess the challenge was we could all come back with creative ideas for the next meeting. Okay, maybe goats, who knows, huh? Okay, Natasha, I think you're next.
All right, so the Heritage Theater hosted a full house event last Saturday for the Marshall Tucker Band. It was a completely sold out show. That was on Saturday, the 28th. Our next season show will be the Highwaymen Show on Saturday, 25th at 8 p.m. and tickets are still available. There is not a bad seat in the house. You can ask Director Carperso. He was at the concert last week. Tickets are available at heritagetheater.org. The Ainsley House had a successful holiday season and is currently closed and being reset. Both the Ainsley House and the Historical Museum will reopen in March. So this will be the first time the Historical Museum has been open in 3 years. So since the pandemic started, and then we had some flooding issues. So those are all been resolved and they're opening with some new exhibits and should be really exciting March for Ainsley House and Museum. We also were able to bring back our youth basketball league. So this was something that has not been able to come back since COVID. And we have had a successful season so far with 150 kids participating. So very fun to see all those kids on the weekends out at the community center. And summer planning is underway for our team, and we're planning a big open house event on Saturday, March 4th from 9 a.m. to noon. I would like our commissioners to be there if possible. It'll be a great opportunity to meet our staff, meet instructors, learn about the variety of classes and programs we have to offer. We'll also be doing swim assessments to help parents identify which level their child should be in, because our summer registration will take place like a week and a half after that. So it'll begin for our Campbell residents on March 14th, and that's our early bird reg for swim lessons and day camps, and then open to everybody on the 15th. So this is a new thing that we're trying. It's one of the biggest questions we get when people are trying to enroll their kids for swim lessons in the summer. And, you know, the staff that we have that answer phones are not experts in aquatics or swim lessons. And so it makes it very challenging. So we're trying to help our community and the kids so that they are successful in their swim lessons over the summer. Last time we met, we were talking about recruitments. So since then, we have extended an offer to a new recreation supervisor. She will be starting next week. Her name is Iseth Ray. She's coming to us from the city of Santa Cruz and has quite a few years of experience in recreation field. James Redman, our aquatics specialist, is retiring, and his last day, we convinced him to stay through the fun run. So his last day will be the Monday after the fun run. We have actually already hired his replacement. Her name is Liz Simonovich. She comes to us as a temp from the city of Cupertino and Mountain View, where she was the pool manager for Blackberry Farm and kind of was the lead for all the community ed classes, such as lifeguarding and babysitting classes and stuff for Mountain View. So great addition to our team. She's kind of hit the ground running, and we're working with her on expanding our recreation swim hours over the summer and having that more accessible to our community. And just one last shameless plug for the Valentine Fun Run. So either come volunteer or sign up February 11th. That's all.
Thank you very much. It's great. Okay, I guess we move now to information only, or the good of the game. Does anybody have anything they want to add today? It looks like it, yes. Oh, she's back. Okay. Tracy, we're doing the good of the game. If you have anything, please jump in. Nobody else?
I have something.
Okay.
We talked about this before, but the skate park, now that we've saved all this money potentially for the Virginia Park project, right? Maybe there's some money for the skate park. And I guess I would encourage something very similar to like a design build there, where we don't need to waste money on a consultant necessarily. Like we just replace what's there with maybe some concrete ramps that look exactly like the steel ones that are really loud and kind of falling apart at this point. So just want to bring that up again, because I walked by those ramps the other day and they look like they're pretty near the end of their lives, useful life, right?
Actually, I love that idea too. I mean, is that something we can discuss at a future meeting, Todd, Natasha?
Yes, definitely. I should remind the commission that I can't remember the date, but I think it's the April meeting where we'll be bringing the proposed park CIP before you. So certainly if we could, maybe pursue a couple of ideas at the March meeting, we should have an agenda item for potential projects and maybe get a sense of the commission's priorities in the event that we can't fund them all, but maybe what's the best order for us to approach these, and then we can put something forward into the budget process.
Will we have an idea of a ballpark cost for something like that by the time April comes?
Possibly. I mean,
I don't know how you find out. That's why I ask. I mean,
we could probably get a ballpark cost. I don't know that we can get
or maybe talk to
Defined
another
cost.
city who did something like this.
I think if we could find another city who's put in like the precast concrete elements and maybe talk to a vendor who's done that, and that might help us get maybe our arms around what a potential cost would be.
Okay, awesome, great. Anybody else? Thoughts? Nothing from me today. Okay. Great. I think that with that, we adjourn to our next meeting, which will be March 1st. So I'm adjourning the meeting.
They shut it off. I didn't get a chance to get in.